Pastor John Hagee of Christians United for Israel, started this organization called Christians United for Israel. And I'll tell you what we are about. We are about doing something that my mother warned me never to do. She said, when I was a little guy and I was always blabbing, she said, "Johnny, don't talk about religion to people and don't talk about politics." Sorry, Mom, that's all I do. Because what's happened, especially in the Christian congregations around this country, is the church has gone silent on the one issue that God says nations are judged on. Look in the Bible. Look in the Bible, there's 3 or 4 different sections where it talks about how God judges nations. And boil it all down, it's this: how has that nation treated Abraham's descendants, which are the Jews today? And if you think I'm kidding, you go home and you look up Joel 3:1-2, and it says God judges nations based on how they treat my inheritance. And then in case there's any doubt about that, God says my inheritance, my people Israel. So everything we do in Christians United for Israel is biblically based. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why nations ought to be supportive of Israel, but I want to tell you the bottom line and the most important one is, what does the Bible say about that? And it tells us, look, in Texas you can buy a lot of t-shirts that says "Don't mess with Texas." Well, I have a lot of those t-shirts, but I also wrote under it, "Don't mess with Texas or Israel." We as a nation mess with Israel at our own peril. Because this nation, when I'm talking about the United States of America, this nation will continue to be blessed and have God's hand of blessing upon it if we remain strong and we stand with Israel. If we don't, if we throw them under the bus, kiss this nation goodbye. And that's what we do, among other things. And one of the things we do is we go to Washington, D.C. every summer, and over the last 5-6 years we always have 5,000 to 6,000 people there, and we go and we see your elected officials. We have a great representative republic. That's the system we live under. But if we don't talk to our elected officials, then they're going to vote wherever the pressure's coming from. And in the United States today, there's between 40 and 50 million people who self-identify themselves as born again, evangelical, Bible-believing Christians. That's how they identify themselves. Okay, 40 or 50 million people all speaking on this one issue is a very strong voice. It'll get attention of any of your elected officials. And you know what, those guys, they're moved by 2 things. Money, and we don't give them any. So we got to move them with the other thing, and that's numbers. And numbers, that means a strong voice. A strong voice. Look, this is a tent. It's wonderful to be back in a tent. I spent 30 years under canvas, but it didn't smell like this. This smells really nice. I love being out under a tent. We are not, Christians United for Israel we are not trying to get all denominations under one tent to agree on theology. That would be a bloodbath. This tent would be a mess. That's why we've got so many denominations. But I'll tell you what, here's what we want to do. We want to get Christians to agree on one thing, that God's Word says we need to support Israel. We are trying to reach those 40 and 50 million people who say, yes, I'm a Bible believer, and show them, biblically speaking, where we must do this kind of stuff. So that's what Christians United for Israel is about. It is a blending of politics and religious beliefs. Sorry, Mom, I'm doing it again. But it's all right. The church for way too long has sat on their hands in the pews. They've been silent. They have not raised their voice. They've been scared into saying nothing. Where is the moral voice going to be heard from if it's not coming from the church? I want to tell you something, that we took copies of these over to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Pastor Hagee sat across the table from him. He showed him these cards and he said, Prime Minister, I want to tell you something. These are legitimate people. These are Christians in the United States who are doing several things. One thing, they are praying for you individually, because that's what we're supposed to do with our leaders. And secondly, they are praying for the peace of Jerusalem. And as well as I could tell, Prime Minister Netanyahu was moved by that. There was an expression on his face to know that there are Christians who are standing, hundreds of thousands of Christians in this nation who are standing with that state. Overnight, we had 400 people come to Washington, D.C. to lobby when the Secretary of Defense was being named because he was not good for Israel. And that's the kind of things that we do. Okay? So please don't leave here without signing this card. Think very strongly about joining us in Washington, D.C. And I want to thank you so much. And I want to thank Nick over there. I see him. He's wearing a cowboy hat right outside of the tent here. You know what? He was wearing this cowboy hat about an hour ago. And I went past him and I said, Nick, I wish I'd bought that style hat. And he said, here, you got to have it. And so I gave him mine. Bless his heart. But you know what? I looked inside, I got the better part of the deal. So, yeah, you're right. I'm not from around here, but I'm glad to be here. God bless you, folks.